Hello and a very warm welcome back to my channel here on YouTube. In this video, I want to return to a case that I visited recently. There's already one video up about this case. It's called the French Bulldogs fighting, and you'll see a little bit of footage that I'll drop in now from my return visit just last week. Now, I'm pleased to tell you that the difference between the first and the second visit has been very marked in a positive sense. So we were, or rather the owners were, experiencing about 3 or 4 fights between these two Frenchies every week, and over a roughly about a 6-week period since my first and return visit, we've had just 1 or 2 little incidents, and they were relatively minor scuffles, and the owners themselves could sort of proportion it and say, well, I did this and it wasn't the best thing, and that caused the issue. And so the owners are learning as well as to what they can and can't do at the moment, and how carefully they're having to sort of tread around the situation. But the wonderful news is that the atmosphere in the home, and in fact even the vibe from especially little Sugar, the white Frenchie, was much more relaxed on my return visit. It's not always evident, but it's often evident on return visits that the dogs just look calmer because the owner has been working on addressing the specific area of calmness. And calmness can often come as a result of increased control, just using things like leads in the house, which we especially used in this case. What we also used in this case were what I call fixing points. So with relatively small dogs, we can usually place the lead around the foot of some heavy furniture, something like that, then put the dog's bed nearby, and then we can create a secure and safe space for that dog, especially if that dog was previously mounting attacks from its bed in that position. We need to stop that. The first thing to address many behaviour issues is, how do we absolutely stop it from being practiced from this point onwards? And that fixing point method, which is extremely simple, has been very beneficial and helpful to the owners, because it seems obvious to me, but once we stop a dog from practicing an unwanted behaviour, that behaviour in itself begins to fade. It's a word we use as it starts to become extinct. It just fades away, especially when we maintain a strong sense of management and clarity around the dogs, showing them the behaviours that we approve of, and really discouraging and redirecting the behaviours we don't wish to see. So on that return visit, I took some nice bits of video. Oh, I say they're nice, but I took some bits of video, and I'll drop them in here for you because I'd like you to become a little fly on the wall. Now, the video itself was on my super wide angle lens, so on my phone, so that it looks a bit distorted, but you get the audio, you'll get the drift, you'll hear firsthand the owner talking about the improvements they've seen. What the owner, I think I was talking about on that video, and I wanted to raise it here with you, is to remain aware of a concept through any behaviour case of the beginning, the middle, and the end. Because in the very beginning, we might be doing some, we'll be sort of clamping down quite clearly on certain behaviors, especially if they're aggressive behaviors. And you have to bear in mind that everything I'm saying is coming through the context of this case, where these two dogs were fighting over the possession and being able to be possessive of one of the owners in particular, the male in the household, and also food. So if there was any food being shared in the living room, especially what we've addressed it or stopped is any sharing of human food to the dogs. I'm not utterly against that, but there have to be certain circumstances under which that could occur and things that we would avoid. And of course, when you have two dogs, throwing in a bit of food can often cause so much competition that arguments or fights can ensue. So if we were to look at it from a relatively simple point of view, that's what was happening here. So let me show you that bit of video, and then I'll come back and talk to you in a bit more detail. Yeah.
Food and us.
Well, yes.
We noticed more or less straight away,
Yeah.
as soon as we didn't allow them up on the sofa, that all in all they were a bit calmer.
Yes.
Around each other.
Yeah.
And they intermingle, apart from when there's food.
Yeah.
And they've been playing quite a lot more than
That's
been,
nice.
I mean, she's been lying down,
Yeah.
showing her belly, and then
Yeah.
lick it.
Yeah, good. Well, I think you've put your finger on it. It's the resource, it's the guarding of the resources, just to say back what you've just said to me, of food and your physical presence. And if we are thoughtful and careful around those two things, and that we follow some basic rules, then I think, you know, you'll have a sort of short to mid-term solution.
Yeah.
And then when you make that permanent and really maintain it and remain consistent, you then should have something which is a long-term outcome.
Yeah.
You know, she's such a good girl down there, isn't she? Such a good dog. Yeah, she's so beautiful. She's beautiful, girl. What's she doing down there? Yeah? Funny, aren't you?
She looks the belly roll.
Funny, aren't you?
Yeah, sure.
Funny.
Leave her alone, you.
Thank you.
But yeah, she's got it quite quickly. She is quick to learn now, but she hates
This is
sugar.
Sugar,
Yeah.
and she was we could say, protagonist.
Yeah.
She would start it, you know.
And
but
then obviously she won't back down.
no, and then
She's in there.
Treacle sort of gets an idea that, well, if you're starting, I'm definitely going to have a go. So, you know, this is how it. But if we're sort of focusing on the dog that's starting the issue, then at least we, whilst not overlooking dog number 2, but we then have a sort of really beginnings of a long-term solution.
But she
So isn't it nice to be a fly on the wall and listen to people that I'm speaking with, and just to have a little insight as to what goes on? You might think that a lot of the job I'm sort of out being dynamic, dealing with big dogs in public, and yes, there is some of that sometimes, but actually a lot of the work is quietly sitting down with people in their living rooms or in their homes and discussing these behaviours in situ. There can be quite a lot of sitting down and talking, but it's fine, because those discussions allow the interactions between me and the owner, and for the owner to begin to understand where I'm coming from and the changes that I'm suggesting and how to implement them and why I'm implementing them. So we have this sort of on-boardness between me and the owner. That is really important, because if I'm not resonating with the owner, if the owner isn't picking up on what I'm saying, or if I'm not feeling a connection and that it's all going smoothly, that can be an issue for me personally, because I just want that connection with the owner. When we have that connection, the outcomes are so much better, because there's trust between me and the owner. There is a much more close adherence to the notes that I'll be offering and the advice that I'll be giving. So that was really good. I love that. Again, I started talking about the beginning, middle and end. Well, you could say on that return visit, they're now in the sort of latter parts of the beginning, and they're coming right into now the middle section, if you like. How long are these periods? Well, it's hard to say. Some little issues could be fixed without too much difficulty. But sometimes if we are looking at behaviours that have been practiced for a long period of time, well, inevitably they'll take a while longer to address. But in this sort of case, I would look at it and say, well, let's take a 6-month, even potentially 3-month run at this. Not that we stop at the end and just sort of take our hands off and let it all go back to as it was before, because as a long-term conversation, that's not what we want. We don't want to be reverting to how things were in the beginning. So having this sense of forward movement, evolution as we move forward, so we're always moving forward into something which is calmer, more enjoyable with the dogs. So as I said earlier, in the very beginning, we'll use measures to control the dogs. And the little examples of that were house lines on the dogs. So they were dragging those around in the home. So the owner was able to quickly stand on the lead, lift the lead, and therefore control that dog and redirect it. Okay, it's very difficult if, especially two dogs, regardless of their size, are running around the house and what we're trying to do is catch them by the collar. That is never a good look and it's never a good situation. It will just inflame the situation. Okay, what we want to do is to be able to interrupt right at the beginning of the escalation, the ladder of escalation. Okay, as soon as we see something happening on those lower rungs, we want to be able to step in and redirect that dog's behavior. So the house line is very useful for that. That was still being used when I returned. So that was a good 6 weeks that the owner kept leads on the dogs. And those measures will stay in place from memory for about another month, because we decided between us that it was such a useful tool, to take it away now would be a bit premature. So yeah, there's going to be a couple of months or more with leads on the dogs in the home. Use of fixing points near beds on the floor has also been invaluable. Okay, so that has allowed the temperature to drop dramatically, and that would account for the 3 or 4 fights, I was told, per week, reliably in the past. And now we've had 1 or 2 only over about a 6-week period. So that is a tremendous fall off. One thing we were looking at in terms of being able to move from where we are now to a longer term outcome where we can relax, that we could consider taking the dogs off the lead. Okay, and then for what we would do is direct the dogs onto their beds and tell them to stay. But because they've had the fixing point sort of keeping them there, it will have helped set up a nice calm habit in that respect. So yeah, moving now into something mid to longer term. The middle section, in my view, tends to be where a lot of the work is. We have, in the beginning section, some effort to mount the project, and then once we're in that groove and practicing the work that needs to be done, that normally is, I describe it as the filler in the sandwich, and that's really where we want to dwell and spend all our time until we are entirely confident that the dog's behaviours are much calmer, and that they can be trusted next to each other. With each other, we can relax. But as you'll see in the video, that the owner makes some very positive comments about their interactions with each other. Because when we take away conflict and the possibility for conflict in a home, the dogs often have very good relationships. Otherwise, people will often say to me, I don't understand it. One minute they're fighting, the next minute they're in the same bed with each other. So this is up to us to manage our dog's environment, to manage our dog's behaviour, not just as single dogs, but especially when we have more than one dog in one household. I'm well aware that many dogs have many people have numerous dogs in their home without any difficulties, and I applaud that. Well done, keep doing what you're doing. So what about the longer term situation now? Because once I've seen a customer on a second visit, in essence, that's my face-to-face time with them dispensed with, and then my support is over phone, email, however people want to do it down the line, okay? But what we were looking at for longer term solutions between these two dogs is them becoming more accepting of one dog watching the other dog get some praise and maybe some food and attention whilst the other dog watches. How are we going to do that? And it's a useful thing. When we've got two dogs, very often they're both there sitting for the same thing at the same time. That's okay if the dogs are completely relaxed in their presence, but when, as we have here, we've got dogs which are vying and conflict between them, what can be very useful in the beginning is that we put one dog on its bed, tell it to sit and stay. We can use the fixing point method, so we can then be hands-free, and we know that that dog isn't going to rush over and invade the space as I'm working with the other dog. Okay, so that is simply it. Tie that dog up, ask it to sit and stay, very brief, not too far away, maybe 10 feet away. And with this dog, we just want to give it a treat or two, give it some strokes, tell it what a good girl she is. And then without sort of, because we're not trying to wind that dog up, okay, but we're just letting that dog see that it has to watch at times whilst the other dog gets some affection. I'd have a lead on this dog. I discussed this with the owner, so this is going to be a part of the plan moving forward. And then we can swap dogs. So we could put this dog on the lead, on the fixing point, and then bring the dog which was just on its fixing point over, and we can then do the same with this dog. So we could do a few little simple swaps with that dog, 2 or 3 of those a day without overthinking it. And that can help begin to build up this acceptance between both of the dogs, that they don't always have to be, or they can't always be there at the same time, and that there isn't a fight, and that we want to show both dogs that that's not how we're doing it. So I hope you enjoyed this case. It was relatively straightforward. Of course, we're not home and dry yet. I would want to speak to the customers yet again as we come into the summer to see where they are, because I would hope by that stage that they'll be able to remove the leads in the house. They'll be managing the dogs much more easily and readily in the home, and that the whole temperature in the home is much, much calmer. I should say they also live with a beautiful Spinoni, 15-year-old Spinoni, one of the bigger Spinonis. Well, you forget how big Spinonis are until you see one, especially next to a small dog like a Frenchie. But she really was playing almost no interactions between these dogs. She's somewhat aloof in comparison. I don't think her eyesight is great. But yeah, it's always interesting to have other dogs in the fray as well. But in this particular case, it didn't seem to be having an impact. And so essentially, I didn't discuss or involve that dog at all, because it wasn't becoming involved in that relationship. You'll see also a little bit of video where Sugar, the white dog, is evidently much more relaxed and much more happy in this video. On the first video, with the lead on, I think she felt like the game was up and that what she was trying to achieve had been interrupted. It had to be interrupted because we can't have them continuing to fight in that way. It's quite normal to have one dog. Let's say some of the problems here is that we had so many similarities. So we've got the same breed, the same sex, okay, and then as a result we have similar mentality. Okay, the similar approach to doing things. As soon as one dog showed aggression and some friction, the younger dog, Treacle, was beginning to say, well, if you're going to start it, I'll definitely not back down, and then we can have that real problem. Okay. The owners also felt that the situation, as I often on return visits will ask an owner to score the situation, especially when it's quite tangible in the way that this case is. So they both felt that they'd gone from a 2, with 0 being bad, 10 being great. They'd gone from a 2 to a 7 in about 5 weeks. So that's brilliant, because they have spanned the halfway mark, which is always good to be the right side of a 5, and they're pushing up, so that is a 5 mark improvement in so many weeks. So at a 7, lots of people would like to be at a 7. We know, of course, there is the 10 to achieve. Do many dogs achieve a 10? Not all, but if we're aiming, I think, for the 9 point somethings, that's really good. That's indicative that the owners and the dogs are calm and happy, which is what we're looking for, isn't it? So overall then, if we were sort of reflecting back on the first visit and you were to score the situation out of 10, 0 being bad, 10 being good, what would you score it sort of then, which was a month ago, in relation, and then what would you score today?
A month ago, I'd say probably about 1 or 2.
A 1 or 2 a month ago. No, that's the dog, not John. And the dog. What do you think you would sort of set them as now for their joint behaviours?
It's got to be
7.
7, yeah.
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 So a resounding 7. And that, of course, is wonderful because that means you've had all but a 5 out of 10, 6 out of 10 mark improvement,
Yeah.
which is substantial. And, of course, that leaves us at a 7, which is brilliant. But we're still a few short of the 9 point something. So I think the 9 point somethings will just come in time now. Time and effort and patience.
How long have we been putting up with this, Steph?
Well, not that long because she used to run away, didn't she? It's only probably about 4 or 5 months.
4 or 5 months.
Yeah, yeah.
So we haven't really gone out in the van, have we?
No, it affects how you live a bit, doesn't it?
Yeah.
When behaviours like that.
Yeah.
No, you've only got. She's only got to go for the pocket.
Yeah.
And she's back.
Yeah. So just for the video, what we were talking about is Treacle being a bit wayward out in the field. Yeah. And in essence, what we said is we'll use some high value food and a long training line. And the amusement is that as soon as cheese was introduced, the line itself was completely redundant.
Yeah.
So all recalls and attentiveness is now much better. Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
She doesn't go. She goes. She does go away from me now. She goes as if she's going to go up to a dog or a person.
Yeah.
And as soon as I call her,
yeah,
she comes back. She
Lovely.
hasn't actually been to anybody.
No,
has
lovely.
No.
Well, this is true. The lack of recall for quite a few dogs could be simply overcome with the right type and value of food, and of course the means to reinforce the recall if it's being ignored, and that's where the line comes in. There's obviously a lot of nuance to it, but that in essence, if we put a line on a dog, introduce food, that can address a lot of recall gaps for a lot of dogs. So that's brilliant. So it makes a public exercise and everything much more enjoyable.
It's quite funny to see her, isn't it? When you call her back. It's really funny to see her.
Because there's a proper path round the triangle.
Yeah, I see.
You know,
Yes.
What I used to do where there was a gap onto the road,
Yeah.
because she did run on the road once, didn't she?
Yeah, she saw somebody.
That was
We
the
used to put a
concern,
lead on her.
wasn't it? Yes.
But we can go past those gaps now without a lead.
Yeah,
You know?
brilliant.
And we like them to go round and socialise with other dogs.
Yeah, of course.
But you do see people with them on a lead.
Yeah.
And don't ever let them off the
No,
lead.
no.
And you're thinking,
I know. Well, it's not much fun for the owner or the dog, is it?
Exactly. So you're thinking, and you want your dogs to be socialised.
Yeah,
don't you?
yeah, ideally so.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. So I think I'll wrap it up there. Thank you for watching this video. I'd just like to give you the beginning, the middle and the end of the process for you to see what is typical on these visits. I think also I wanted to impress the point that it is a process. It's very rarely a quick fix in the game of dog behaviour. Some media that we're exposed to now can give the impression that fixes can occur in a 20-minute period, which just is often not the case. Yes, a dog may change quite quickly in a 20-minute period. Let's say from the point of me entering a home, the dog is on a lead. It's often behaving a bit excessively, but that lead gives me the opportunity to take the dog to calm it down, and then we can often see an initial, quite a positive bringing down from an overly excited dog into a dog which is much calmer and more biddable and ready to do some listening and a bit of relearning. Okay, so thank you again for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe the video, and I look forward to seeing you on the next one. Thank you and bye for now.